and execution, there's still one big catch. No matter how carefully they construct their messages, they don't control how it's received. And that just may be the most wicked truism of all. When you're under the influence. I'm Terry O'Reilly. This episode was recorded at Reed's Distillery in downtown Toronto. Producer, Debbie O'Reilly. Chief Sound Engineer, Jeff Devine. Live recording by Milan Sarkady. Research, Allison Pinches. Under the Influence theme by Casey Pick, Jeremiah Pick, and James Attengodden. Photography, Catherine Kwan. Tunes provided by 8 PM Music. Hey, let's be social. Follow me at Terry O Influence. You want to read next week's fun fact? Just go to apostrophepodcast.ca and follow the prompts. See you next week.
Fun fact. Hi, this is Callie from Reed's Distillery in Toronto. On Broadway, Wicked has brought in over $1.6 billion in ticket sales since its debut.
You're listening to CBC Radio 1. CBC, always here for Canada. The Liberal Party will make their choice on who they want as leader and Canada's next Prime Minister. How will they lead in these uncertain times? And with a federal election just around the corner, CBC News breaks down what this means for the nation and what this means for you. Join Susan Bonner and Catherine Cullen for a CBC News radio special, Liberal Leadership 2025, Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern on CBC Radio 1 or the CBC News app.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. It's news you can trust, delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's News app.
Good afternoon. I'm Julie Buckingham. And this is CBC News. At 12 o'clock in downtown Winnipeg, it is sunny and -5 degrees. We're dropping off throughout the day in terms of the wind, and a sun cloud mix, the high -4. Donald Trump is again walking back at least some of his tariffs. Mexico is getting another reprieve. The president says the levies on goods from that country will be paused until April 2nd, but there's no word from the White House on whether Canadian goods will be given that same break. Megan Fitzpatrick has the latest.
President Donald Trump is giving Mexico a break from some of the tariffs he imposed earlier this week, and there are hints he could do the same for Canada. Trump announced in a social media post that after speaking with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, he's giving imports that fall under the U.S.-Canada-Mexico trade deal a 1-month reprieve. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick previewed the announcement in an interview on CNBC.
That which is part of President Trump's deal with Canada and Mexico are likely to get an exemption from these tariffs now.
But so far today, Trump has only announced the exemption for its southern neighbor. The backtracking comes a day after he issued exemptions for the auto sector. Trump thanked Mexico's leader for her cooperation while writing in a separate post that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has done a, quote, terrible job for Canada. Megan Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Washington.
A local trucking company is already seeing shipments on both sides of the Canada-U.S. border on hold due to tariffs. Gurbir Bopari is the director of Canadian Prairie Transport. He says over the past few days, between 5 and 7 loads were cancelled due to the 25% levies on Canadian items. Bopari says everything from auto parts to seeds have stopped because of the confusion.
There are a lot of customers who are putting the shipments on hold. They are not allowing us to cross the border with those shipments, and they're just waiting to what happened. We are still just kind of waiting from and updates from our clients what they're going to do with that.
Bopari hopes to keep employees working while the trade war continues, but hopes it ends soon. A Manitoba distiller says changes to lift booze restrictions within Canada are a good thing, but won't help him much right now. Ottawa and most of the provinces have agreed to allow breweries, distilleries, and wineries to send and sell their products directly to people in other provinces. Co-owner of Patent 5 Distillery, Brock Coots, says it's a start.
Guarded optimism, I suppose. I would say we very much have a local profile to date in Manitoba. So I suspect that's not going to have a really big impact on us.
Coots says it would really help his business to have space on liquor store shelves in other provinces, not just those one-off sales. An Osborne Village lounge losing its liquor license after a shooting. A 29-year-old man was taken to hospital in unstable condition last month after being shot in the Moonlight Lounge around 4:20 a.m. In a statement, Manitoba's Liquor, Gaming and Cannabis Authority says it issued an immediate order to suspend the license February 13th. It says it's working with law enforcement on the matter. The 48-year-old owner of the bar can appeal within 21 days. In the meantime, police say he was there when the incident happened and has been charged with obstruction. A 33-year-old Winnipegger is also facing counts of aggravated assault and remains behind bars. Headingley RCMP are investigating after a fatal pedestrian crash involving a train. It happened just after 8 Sunday night near the Hall Road crossing just off Wilkes in the RM of Headingley. A 32-year-old Winnipeg man died at the scene. And Ryan Wedding is being added to the FBI most wanted list. The Canadian alleged kingpin is now on that top 10. The 43-year-old competed for Canada as a snowboarder in the 2002 Olympic Games in Utah. He is now facing U.S. federal charges related to 3 murders and a cocaine charge as well. That is your CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 12:30. Checking your forecast, Winnipeg sun cloud mix -4, Brandon clouds and -3, Dauphin light snow and -4, the Flin Flon and the Paw high of -10, in Thompson clearing and -13, Churchill snow ending and -17. You're listening to CBC Radio 1.
Well, good afternoon, Manitoba. You are listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 97.9 FM in Brandon, on the CBC Listen app, and we are streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Thank you so much for joining us. Here's what's coming up on the show today. During our call-in segment here after 12:30, gentle parenting or fool around and find out parenting. Is one more effective than the other? We're going to talk to a parenting expert about parenting styles coming up. You can call with your comments and questions then. But first up here, the owner of a Winnipeg energy bar company is pivoting her business plan in light of the trade war between the U.S. and Canada. Cheryl Zealand was excited to introduce the newest flavor of her energy bars to the market, but the trade war between the U.S. and Canada has changed that. Zealand is the founder and CAO of Cranked Energy Bars based here in Winnipeg. In an Instagram post, Zealand says that she was saving her newest pistachio cacao bar to pitch to American-based Starbucks. But now her attention has turned to getting her product in Canadian stores because she says, quote, when one door closes, it's just a sign to kick open another. Cheryl Zealand joins me now via Zoom. Hi, Cheryl. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
You posted to Instagram recently about how the U.S. tariffs have affected your energy bars. Tell our listeners who have not seen your post what you said.
Well, we've been working towards a large scale up, not just for our Canadian market, but also our US market. We did trademark in the US, which took a long time to get. And the natural path is just to, do Canada and the US and get these bars everywhere. And unfortunately, we had to put a hold on that. The uncertainty, we don't know what's going to happen. The cost of groceries right now, as it is, our margins are small. How does that look getting across the border? And so we're just pivoting. We are a Canadian company, a Manitoba company. Our market in Canada is huge. There's so much potential, and that's where our focus is going to be right now.
As we know, this is a bit of a moving target. We've heard about tariffs possibly being paused here. We're hearing maybe quite possibly until April 2nd. The back and forth between Canada and the United States. How has this affected your business?
Yeah, it's a roller coaster, as I'm sure a lot of people are feeling right now, especially for small business. We operate really lean, like cash flow is everything to us. And when you start to threaten us with tariffs and whatnot, and we don't know what that's going to look like down the road, what that's going to do to our supply chain, what that's going to do to our costing. Luckily for Cranked Energy, our stuff is all Canadian ingredients. Our supply chain in Canada is currently very solid, which makes me very happy. But that could change. We don't know what the future is going to look like. Transportation costs, everything that affect businesses in general, but especially I'm concerned about the small business community. That's where my heart is. And every day is a roller coaster. It's up and down. And at some point, we just stop looking at the news right now and focus on production and what we have to do and focus on our community and growing this product across Canada.
Right now, where is your product being sold?
We're primarily Manitoba, which is we've got a great foothold in Manitoba, and our retailers are fantastic in our customer base. A little bit in Saskatchewan, some in Ontario, and then a few in BC. But there's potential to go all the way across Canada, which is the goal. Do you sell your product in the U.S.? No. So for the trademark, to keep our trademark, we had to do a couple sales to show proof of selling and use of the trademark. So we did have a few sales rapidly to get that done. I don't know what that looks like going forward. Obviously, I'll talk to my trademark lawyer and find out what the future holds for that. I'm not saying we'll never get into the US, but right now it's definitely a shift in the priorities and not something we need to focus on right now.
We've heard the Prime Minister and the Premiers talk about this. They're trying to lift trade barriers. I know booze is one of the items that they're right now trying to get easily shipped between province to province, but a lot of people talking about tearing down those barriers and giving some business opportunity here across the country. How would those trade barriers, if they came down, how would that affect your business?
Well, for us, it's mostly, transportation costs and paperwork and just having different rules in every province. I think when you're operating small business, you don't have a time to do all that stuff. So something unified would be amazing. Also, we operate a lot on local programs, and I would hope retailers do support their local makers first, but opening those local programs up into Canadian-wide programs. So, someone in Manitoba could sell their product in a grocery store in Quebec and, all the way across to BC as well. That would be amazing. So, more of a Canadian program would be lovely for a small business owners.
How have you reached out to any companies here in Canada? Have you been able to talk to some stores about picking up your product?
We got a lot of traction. We were on Dragon's Den in October, which helped with our branding. But with the tariffs coming in there, I've seen a huge shift in at least opening conversations, not everyone wanting to take the product immediately. There is a cost component. Does it make sense? Is there shelf space for them? Does their market support a product like ours, that kind of thing? But the conversations are there. And I would encourage small business owners to reach out. Now's a great time. Start the conversations. They're more than willing to talk. Everyone's really busy. So if you're not hearing from them, reach out, take initiative. This is a great time for everyone to band together, and let's get Canadian made products all over the place. Let's just support us.
Cheryl, I finally want to ask you, in all the years that you've been in business, have you experienced something like this before, where there's so much uncertainty around your business and around the economy?
I mean, the last time I had a mini meltdown probably was COVID and when everything kind of shut down, and it's the unknown, right? You, as a small business owner, we're all in. There is no paycheck coming unless we're making sales and running our companies. There's no plan B. So pivoting constantly is stressful on us. And something like this is really scary because we just don't know where it's going. At least, with COVID, there was a plan. We knew what to do. We knew how to stay safe. This just feels like such a roller coaster ride. And it's scary. I'll be honest. We're vulnerable. It's scary. And I think just unification, invest locally, support your small business owners, reach out, talk to them, share their stuff on social media. Like everyone has shared our Instagram post. Do that for your small business owners. That would help.
Cheryl, I really do appreciate you taking the time to join us on the show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care. Cheryl Zealand is the founder and CAO of Cranked Energy Bars based here in Winnipeg.
I'm Nala Ayed, host of Ideas. Are there better ways for us to talk to each other? And could that help us build a better society? Novelist and poet Ian Williams wants to start a conversation about conversations. The 2024 CBC Massey Lectures on Ideas. What I Mean to Say, Remaking Conversations in Our Time. Find Ideas wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
It is 12:13 and you're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, on the CBC Listen app and streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Still ahead here, the 10th annual Rooftop campout is taking place right now at a Brandon Fire Hall. We're going to check in with one of the firefighters who is up there all in the name of charity. Stay tuned for that, but let's talk about your forecast. Today here in Winnipeg, high of -4 under a mix of sun and cloud. Northwest wind this afternoon at times could gust to 30. Tonight, a few clouds, chance of scattered flurries overnight and a low of -12. Tomorrow, -4 once again under a mainly sunny sky. Increasing cloud later on in the day. South wind gusting at 30. Saturday, we're back on the plus side, high of 1 under a cloudy sky with some sunny breaks. Sunday, a high of 2 degrees and mainly sunny. Current conditions right now in Brandon, it is mainly sunny and -5. Churchill, light snow and -18 for you. -10 and mostly cloudy in Dauphin. -14, mainly sunny in Flin Flon. Right now in the Paw, sunny and -15. Thompson, you're seeing light snow and drifting snow with a northwest wind gusting to 40 and a current temperature of -14. And in Winnipeg, at both the Forks and the airport, it is -4 and mainly sunny. It is 12:15 now here on CBC Radio 1. Well, a group of Brandon firefighters and paramedics are high up on the roof of a Brandon fire station right now for an annual fundraiser. It is the 10th year for the Rooftop campout. The campout started on Tuesday and it will wrap up tomorrow. Firefighter and paramedic Kyle Martin is one of those folks camping out right now and joins me from the roof. Hi, Kyle.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm just wonderful, thanks.
Speaking of how are you doing, I mean, first of all, how's the weather right now in Brandon?
You know what? I don't think for the beginning of March that we could ask for any better weather. It's been pretty good. The first night was kind of cold for us, but other than that, it's been pretty stable.
Remind our listeners again, what is the Rooftop campout?
The Rooftop campout is exactly as it sounds. We have a tent up on the number 2 fire hall, and we're raising funds by doing that, but also by doing boot drives in the street, collecting donations in our boot for charity. In Brandon, our case, we do a tri-charity campout, and that's for muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy, and the Brandon Firefighters Charity Fund. So tell us a little bit more about the charities that you're raising funds for. Why those 3 charities in particular? Absolutely. So the Rooftop campout has been really ingrained into fire department history in North America for years, and especially with muscular dystrophy. We've always been kind of hand in hand with that organization. And here in Brandon, we found a real need with a lot of our community for cerebral palsy as well. And so we decided to expand upon that and go, okay, let's make this a tri-charity campout. And so now we're able to help muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy, and then anything else that that comes up to us that we feel a great need to support, it can come out of our Brandon Firefighters Charity Fund.
Now, how have people in Brandon responded to the campout?
Oh, it is overwhelmingly positive. Every year that we do this, it reminds you just what a strong community this is and the sense of community that all the residents have here. It's incredible. Everybody that comes out and they're smiling all the time and they're waving, and people come with baked goods that they've made specially for the volunteers. It's truly incredible to see.
Why is this important for the firefighters to do this kind of work in the community? I mean, every day, firefighters, paramedics, they respond to emergency situations. They're out there helping the public. Why is something like this really important to firefighters?
I think part of that is just that we see the need for it a little bit more with our job. We see kind of the gaps in what the government's able to help folks out with the funding, and we're able to kind of see that a little bit more and go, holy smokes, a shower chair for someone with muscular dystrophy can be, $7,000, and custom orthotics are $1,500 and things like that. So we hear those stories a lot, and we go, let's help out with this. Let's do whatever we can to kind of help these folks out and do our part to make sure that they get everything that they need.
Now, Kyle, I understand that you have helped organize the campout for 2 years, but this is your first time actually up on the roof. So what made you decide that you wanted to camp out this year?
That's a good question. I've wanted to camp out for many years, and it has just never worked out with recertifications or whatever's going on shift. And this year, it was the perfect set of circumstances where I could be up on the roof and organizing, and love it. It's been really good.
I'm curious to know, okay, so there's 4 of you up there right now on the roof. How do you pass the time? What do you do up there?
Well, we're not always on the roof. Depending what's going on and how many volunteers we have, we'll maybe be down holding the boot in the street and kind of take turns up and down. But for the most part, we count our donations and pass it on to the local 803 treasurer from the union, and he deposits everything. So we're busy pretty much from sun up to sundown, and then we kind of collapse.
And you know what? I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time. I know that you're busy up there, and I hope the weather stays nice for you as this wraps up tomorrow. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us here on Radio Noon today.
Thank you for having me.
Kyle Martin is a Brandon firefighter and paramedic camping out right now at Fire Hall number 2 for the annual Rooftop Campout. The campout wraps up tomorrow. It is 12:20 now. Well, time for a visit from our word nerd. And this week's word is a must when it comes to democratic elections. Here's word nerd Elizabeth Withy with the story of ballot.
Elections come with lingo. Voters, polls, tactics, upsets, speeches, rallies, and ballots.
Lay that ballot down, folks, lay that ballot down. Veto-packing voters, oh, lay that ballot down.
Now, ballot can mean a few things. It can refer to the system of voting in secret, or it can be the actual piece of paper that you write your vote on. So why do we say ballot? We have the Republic of Venice to thank, and its system of electing magistrates called doges, established in the 1100s. Each voter casts their choice with a little ball called a balota, or as we now know it in English, ballot.
All right. Who was it? Come on, I want to know.
Excuse me, this was a secret ballot. We all agreed on that, no? If the gentleman wanted to remain secret...
Secret? What do you mean secret? There are no secrets in a jury room. I know who it was.
Each voter casts their choice with a little ball called a balota. The pronunciation, ballot, pays homage to the word's Italian roots. And let's face it, it sounds a lot more sophisticated than saying ballot.
Vote for mysteryism, let freedom reign.
Historically, the ballot box contained the balls that each voter had cast, which is how we got blackball, the word for rejecting something or someone, because a black ball was traditionally a vote in opposition, compared with a white ball signaling a vote in favor.
In the black ball line I served my time. Hurrah for the black ball line! In the black ball line I had a good time. Hurrah for the black ball line!
The word root of ball is bell, B-H-E-L, meaning blow or swell, which also gave rise to words like bowl, boulder, bale, bull, bulk, and a bunch of other words I shan't get into out of respect for radio appropriateness.
Call it the ballad of the battle, of the ballad and the bullet, with a beat on the barrel and a hair-triggered bullet.
Bulletin, though, that's worth a mention. It, too, comes from Italian bulletta, meaning voting slip. And it became a popular word during the Napoleonic Wars as a term for military updates from the front lines. By the 1920s, though, it came to mean any public notice or announcement. Hence the term bulletin board. For CBC Radio, I'm Elizabeth Withy.
It is 12:23 now. Right now in Emerson, it is -3, -6 in Gimli, and at this hour in Lynn Lake, sunshine and -17. New music from Pincher Creek's Richard Inman. This is Gone.
Said adios, sweet angel of mercy, as she crushed out her cigarette and pulled her jacket on. Then she said so long. Were you waiting for a sign? Love's a note you just can't find. She's walking now and you just can't find the words. Tomorrow's just another word, a song you sang that she ain't heard, and you're still hoping that she'll turn around. You swore it up and down you'd be alright, watching 3 more days turn into night. Backing out now while you wait. You couldn't find the words to say, so you say adios one more time, and she's gone, and then she's gone. You say adios one more time, and she's gone, and then she's gone. So you pack your bags, head back home, watch the sun fall on the eastern slope, pour the coffee down the drain from days gone by. Think about the time she cried and held a robin while it died. She said her soul was slipping with it too. You ain't new to laying down, letting loss take what's left now. So you sit there like a lost kid by the phone. Swore it up and down you'd be alright, watching 3 more days turn into night. Backing out now while you wait. You couldn't find the words to say, so you say adios one more time, then she's gone, then she's gone. You say adios one more time, and she's gone, and then she's gone. La da 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 backing out now while you wait. You couldn't find the words to say, so you say adios one more time, and she's gone, and then she's gone. You say adios one more time, and she's gone, then she's gone. You say adios one more time, and she's gone, then she's gone.
That is Richard Inman with Gone.
New on CBC Gem this month, Shiva Baby. When a young college student sits Shiva and runs into her sugar daddy and ex-girlfriend, her day of mourning gets messy.
No funny business with Maya.
What is that supposed to mean?
Just try to behave yourself today.
Don't miss this coming-of-age comedy that's as intense as it is hilarious, starring Rachel Sennett. Watch Shiva Baby for free starting January 17th on CBC Gem.
12:28 now, and you're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Well, coming up during our call-in segment here on the show, if your child throws a tantrum, do you A, crouch down beside them and acknowledge their feelings, or B, do you leave them to cry and figure it out for themselves? There is a lot of talk online and on social media about the latest trends in parenting styles. We're going to talk to a parenting expert, author, and family counselor about why one method might be better than the other. We're also going to take your questions here that you might have on parenting. Maybe you want to share some comments about your experiences. That's coming up here during the call-in segment on Radio Noon. I'll give you the numbers now. Number to call is 204-780-0893, or you can also text us at 204-588-7355. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 97.9 FM in Brandon, on the CBC Listen app and streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Stay with us. Your CBC local news is coming up next.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon. I'm Julie Buckingham in downtown Winnipeg at 12:30. Sunshine, and we've reached the daytime high of -4. Wind dropping throughout the rest of the afternoon, and again, we'll continue with that sun-cloud mix. Canada's Cyber Intelligence Agency is issuing a warning for the upcoming federal election. It says there are foreign powers that are likely to use artificial intelligence tools to spread disinformation. Catherine Tunney has the details from Ottawa.
China, Russia, Iran, all countries the Communications Security Establishment warns will very likely try and use AI to meddle in the upcoming federal election. The Cyber Spy Agency put out a threat assessment this morning, warning both Canadian voters and politicians to be on guard. Emerging AI tools are trained on huge amounts of data to generate a response to a wide range of requests from a user, from text to video and images, all of which can be used to try and mislead voters or sow division, says CSE. The report goes on to say political parties and those running for office are likely to be targeted by hackers too, looking to leak harmful or embarrassing details. There is some positive news. CSE does say it's very unlikely that these activities will fundamentally undermine the integrity of the next general election, which could take place very soon. Catherine Tunney, CBC News, Ottawa.
Meantime, Ottawa is sharing an agreement with Indigenous survivors of so-called Indian hospitals. Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Gary Anasangari says it's important Canada face up to the past actions carried out by the federal government.
The federal government operated 33 of these hospitals, originally established as tuberculosis treatment centers. However, they quickly became a tool of segregation. Many Indigenous patients were forced to stay for months or even years, enduring mistreatment, neglect, and abuse.
The federal government has agreed to pay compensation to individual survivors in the range of $10,000 to $200,000. Ottawa is also earmarking nearly $400 million for a healing fund and research and education on Indian hospitals. Guarded optimism is how the co-owner of Patent 5 Distillery feels about a potential agreement between Ottawa and the provinces to lift some restrictions on booze sales. It would allow wineries, breweries, and operations like his to sell and send their products products directly to customers. Brock Coots says he doesn't have a big profile outside of Manitoba, so the measure may not help. He says what would have been better is access to liquor store shelves in other places.
Finding shelf space in Ontario or in BC, that would be awesome. But each of the provinces have a very convoluted bureaucracy with different rules among all the provinces. So for everyone to agree on that, I think would be a bit of a challenge.
Coots hopes there will be further loosening of restrictions between provinces. That is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 1:30.
Thank you very much, Julie.
Most welcome.
That is Julie Buckingham with your CBC Local News. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, on the CBC Listen app, and streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Coming up here, we're going to take your questions. The topic today is parenting. Yeah, we're going to talk about parenting styles. During our call-in segment, Alison Schaefer, author, family counselor, and parenting expert, will join us. I know that there's a lot of talk out there, especially on social media, about what's the best way to parent. Is there a best way? What different kind of styles are there? So I'll give you the numbers to call here, 204-780-0893. You can call and give us your questions and comments there, or you can, of course, always text us, 204-588-7355. Before we get to our call-in segment, let's turn our attention now to weather specialist Riley Lachuk and a look at the forecast. And I just noticed, so Riley usually puts out a forecast for us here every day, and you have now bumped it up to -2.
We have made a slight revision. We are already at that previous high of -4 in Winnipeg. Let's go a couple more degrees up.
Okay, so we want to get warmer.
Yeah. We are looking at a bit of a push of some warmer air, thanks in part to the sunshine that we are seeing right across southern Manitoba at the moment. So we are looking at temperatures right now, -4 in Winnipeg, Steinbach, Brandon's at -5, Melitta's at -2 at the moment, but some cooler air not too far north. Dauphin at -10, Victoria Beach at -10 right now, -13s, -14s into parts of northern Manitoba, Thompson into Gillam. So mainly sunny skies. There is a little bit of cloud cover out there. We'll see that cloud kind of ebbing and flowing as we get through the day today. So a mix of sun and clouds. As we get into the night tonight, there is another slight chance out of some of this cloud. I think that we could see a couple of flurries. I know we did see a little dusting overnight into the morning hours today. Expect that again overnight tonight. Slight chance we see some of that to the right of River Valley, but just know the risk is there. Into Friday, looking at another mix of sun and clouds. Tomorrow, we do start to build some cloud in later in the day, this ahead of another system that will make its way in from Alberta. Not having a lot of impact, although overnight Friday into Saturday, I think we do have a better chance of seeing a few flurries once again. Really not much in the way of accumulation, maybe traced to a couple of centimeters. Really, that's about it. A little bit more coming into northern Manitoba. Even Grand Rapids, the Pod, Norway House may be looking at 2 to 3 centimeters by the time we get to this time on Saturday. And along the Hudson Bay coast, maybe a couple more centimeters yet to come. Temperatures around the freezing mark really across much of southern Manitoba today, sticking -10 and colder through northern Manitoba through the afternoon hours. -4 again for Friday. +1 for Saturday, +2 for Sunday, and then +3 on the way for Monday. So we are back above freezing into the weekend and early next week.
And that is good news. Yeah, because we'd like to see a warm. But I also want to mention, too, that yesterday Riley on Up to Speed was asking for dog photos for his dog walking forecast. If you have a wonderful picture of your little fluffy friend out there, talk back, right?
Yep, talkback@cbc.ca.
And it's important to have a dog walking forecast because, I mean, our little furry friends like to go outside. And I like, if it's cold outside, my dog's going to go out no matter what temperature it is. He's like -40, slap the boots on, put the jacket on, send me out, and so it's important to know.
In the winter, more important on whether to put the sweater and the booties on. Yeah. This time of year, more important for that freeze-thaw cycle that we're seeing, whether you're going to see some really icy conditions in the morning and some wetter sidewalks later in the day.
And more important, Riley, we just love to see pictures of dogs.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Talkback@cbc.ca. Yep. Thank you so much, Riley.
You're welcome.
That is CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk. It is 12:37 now. Well, what's the best way to parent? Is there a best way to parent? It sounds like a loaded question, but there is debate online, on social media, and everywhere about which parenting style is the best. You may have heard of gentle parenting, Or FAFO parenting, which stands for fool around and find out, or even F around and find out. Is one method better than the other, or is there middle ground? We thought we'd turn to a parenting expert and author to find out. If you have any questions, comments, here's the number to call: 204-780-0893, 204-780-0893. You can, of course, always text us at 204-588-7355, 204-588-7355. Allison Schaefer is a family counselor, author, and parenting expert, and joins me now via Zoom. Hi, Allison. Thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Now, before we get into parenting style here, let's talk about the debate that's happening over parenting. Why are we seeing so much talk about this online and especially on social media?
Well, I think we have to appreciate that if we look back in the history of parenting, we came from a very long, strong tradition of all parenting very much the same way, which was very autocratic, rule with the iron fist. And the goal of that parenting style was to raise obedient children. And so it didn't matter whether you dropped your kids off in the classroom and they got the strap, or you sent them to somebody else's house and they swore and the other mother would put a bar of soap in their mouth. You know, we used punishment, and that was really, everyone kind of agreed that that was the way to go. And then we did a lot of research to find out that there was these really detrimental sides to raising kids that way. And we wanted to let go of it. And it's in the letting go of it that we're having a free-for-all for what we should do instead. And you can see sort of mass confusion. And I don't think that it helps or it compounds the matter more that on social media, you've got a lot of people that are either influencers or in the parenting space, and everybody is trying to kind of grab their brand, create their hashtag. And so you hear things like helicopter parenting and free range parenting and dolphin parenting and this new one that we're hearing about, the FAFO parenting. Because if you're somebody who wants to grab a share of the market, you have to brand around something. So you make up these novel names. And it works for them because they're branding, but it just adds confusion to parenting. There isn't that many styles of parenting. Let me tell you, there's only 3. We can go over them. It's not that many. They just all get covered with different names.
Okay, so what are the 3 different styles here?
Yeah, so I'm going, and this is research, people. This isn't my opinion. We have been researching this topic way back. So leadership styles, which is what parenting is, goes way back to Kurt Lewin in 1939. And he came up with the idea of autocratic, democratic, and laissez-faire. And it's really this combination of firmness and friendliness. So if you're firm and you're not friendly, that's that autocratic style. If you can't hold a boundary and you're super friendly and trying to be all chummy with your kid, then that is going to be too friendly. You don't have the firmness piece. That's going to be more the laissez-faire, that permissive kind of style. We're trying to find that middle ground, the one that the research shows. And we go to Diana Baumrein, who's a clinical and developmental psychologist who studied this. And she came up with those sort of same 3 categories. So we want to find that middle one where you are both firm and friendly simultaneously. Barbara Coloroso came up with warmer terms. I like her. She talks about brick wall, jellyfish, and backbone. I think that maybe more metaphorically helps parents kind of understand. And we're not that way all the time, can I tell you? I've got times where I think I'm doing really great and being firm and friendly, and then my kids drive me crazy and I snap, and then I realize, oh, I was too firm, and then I apologize and I'm too friendly. So, we bounce around, day to day, week to week, but we're trying to aim for that middle ground of being both simultaneously firm and friendly. That's what the research shows has the best outcomes for kids.
We're speaking with Allison Schaefer, parenting expert, author, and family counselor here on Radio Noon. If you have a question about parenting styles, or maybe you just have a story that you want to share with us, 204-780-0893, 204-780-0893, or you can also text us at 204-588-7355. 204-588-7355. I want to break down some definitions here first, Allison, for people who have never heard of them. CBC has done a couple of articles. So one was gentle parenting, about gentle parenting. What exactly is that?
So gentle parenting is, again, a brand that was sort of put out into the universe by Sarah Ockwell-Smith out of the UK. And there is an emphasis there on, yes, being firm and friendly. I think it would fall into that democratic backbone category that we were talking about that the experts say, but it's got an emphasis on making sure that our kids' emotions are being supported emotionally. And I think what's happened is when I read through all the descriptions of what she was putting out there as gentle parenting, but then I see the application of it because I have a clinical practice. So I have lots of families coming in saying like, oh, I practice gentle parenting. And then they'll go through a scenario like bedtime or getting their kids out the door in the morning or refusal to potty train or something. And they tell me what they're doing and responding. And I'm like, I don't think that's what gentle parenting is. I think you've taken the definition, you kind of like the idea, but what you're describing to me is far more permissive. So I think the application is not holding up. I think the original constructs are fine, but I don't think that that's what parents are doing. We are so into kids' emotions right now. Mm-hmm. It is the sexy topic. Emotional regulation, co-regulation, active listening, supporting their experience. That is just like such a big concern and worry to parents that we're going in the other extreme, which is what happens when we try to change up historical ways of doing things. We tend to overcompensate, and we're in the overcompensation stage right now, in my humble opinion.
Gentle parenting, the way that it sounds like to me is that it's the child who's in control. Is that right? Is that the best way to kind of put it?
No, I don't think it's the child in control. I would agree with you that when we're looking at these leadership styles, we are looking at where the power distribution is. And so what we see in either think of it as a teeter-totter with one person in a superior position kind of controlling and managing the other person. So you kind of have like the puppet and the puppet master, or the oppressed and the oppressor, with that goal of obedience. You're under my thumb. And you're right. In the beginning, parents had all the power. But then children took over. As we tried to change our parenting styles, they went, hey, there's no one sitting in the king's seat. I think I'll jump up and start saying, I refuse to do this and I refuse to do that. And because parents didn't know an alternative to yelling and screaming, they wanted to pay attention to their emotions, they became very permissive styled and like, okay, just put your shoes on. I'll just give you 2 more minutes. Okay, I'll just give you 3 more stories before bedtime. Okay, I'll go make your chicken fingers. You didn't want to have salmon. And we really started to kowtow to children. So they did. So the teeter-totter is backing and forthing between who's ruling the roost. I don't want any teeter-totter in parenting. We want to get off that system altogether. And that's where that democratic, firm, and friendly simultaneously, with a goal of not controlling people, but inspiring and stimulating conditions for people to get along and cooperate instead of being obedient. That's the sweet spot.
We are talking to parenting expert and author Allison Schaefer, who is taking questions and comments here. We're talking about parenting styles. Give us a call, 204-780-0893. If you have a question for Allison, you can of course, always text us at 204-588-7355. Allison, I want to talk about the other extreme then, FAFO. Fool around and find out. You know what? I'd never heard of that before until I actually read about it online. For folks who are not familiar with that, what does that mean?
Yeah, so the fool around and find out is really, just a cute little social media term that someone's kind of branding. But what they're describing when you dig into it is they're talking about allowing children to experience the natural consequences of their decision making. So an example would be, if you don't wear a coat, you're going to get cold. If you get down from the table before dinner is over and you only manage to have 2 bites of dinner, but supper's over now, you're going to get hungry. You miss the window of opportunity. And so I think that is not so much a parenting style. I would call that one tool in your toolbox of what should be many tools for dealing with kids. But I like that the idea there is that it goes with the model that discipline comes from the root word disciple, which comes from the word to teach, not to punish. So, and it's educative. You can make a choice, but I want you to experience the outcomes of your choices. And it trusts that through experiencing, because kids are experiential learners, that when they experience what their choice led to, that as somebody who gets educated by life's experiences, they'll choose differently in the future. And so you don't need to go in afterwards with the whole, well, I told you if you got down from the dinner table, you were going to be hungry. I told you if you didn't wear your coat, we'd have to leave the toboggan hill. We don't need to. The education comes from experiencing the cold, experiencing the hunger. We don't need to add on to that. And we know that children learn the fastest from natural consequences. So when you can step back and not interfere in life doing its teachings, then the kids will learn the fastest, and there's no interpersonal dynamic that happens by just stepping. You can be empathetic. I'm so sorry. You got down from the dinner table and there's no food again until breakfast. Rub your tummy, you'll handle it, and then move on to the next thing.
Allison, we have Natalie on the line. Hi, Natalie.
Hi there.
Hi, what's your question?
So my daughter is about 1, and I'm starting to think about, these questions about parenting, how to parent her, and obviously inundated by social media with 100 different kinds of ways to parent. And I'm really appreciating this conversation this afternoon. I'm wondering if you have any resources that you would recommend as a new parent that you think would kind of cut through some of the noise out there.
100%. Well, I mean, I'm obviously biased because I am trained in one form of psychology. So I'm trained in Adlerian psychology. Alfred Adler, Carl Jung, and Sigmund Freud were like the 3 great minds that brought modern psychology into the fore. And I'm 3rd generation Adlerian. My family has helped set up the Adlerian Institutes. I speak around the world. There's many online parenting classes. They're all democratic in nature. I don't mind. I do little webinars, but I have books you can read. But Amy McCready has a wonderful online parenting class you can do at your own pace. PEP, which is Parent Encouragement Program, is another Adlerian program. They have all kinds of online programs that you can jump on there. So again, it's one of those things where it's just hard. It's hard because we're all branded differently. And I think it's causing so much confusion. But those are some of the big names that I know are evidence-based, research-based, really tried and true, and very, very proven.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natalie, for your call. Again, we are speaking with Allison Schaefer, family counselor, parenting expert, and author here on Radio Noon. If you have any questions, comments about parenting, 204-780-0893. And you can also text us 204-588-7355. Allison, we got a text message here from Alana. Alana says, a parent can be gentle and authoritative simultaneously, and this has worked fantastically with my kids. One can impose consequences without losing their cool, and when you're a calm, consistent parent, your kids learn to trust you. What do you think of that comment?
Beautiful. She's hit the sweet spot. She's hit the sweet spot. And again, just remember that we're pioneers, because most of us were not parented this way, and we learn a lot from modeling. And even if we take a course and get educated, we can all get reactive when triggers happen. And there's nothing more triggering than children. Let me tell you, they will force you to grow, whether you like it or not. And so it's really hard to use all the resources that we might have learned in a book or a course when we're kind of triggered. But finding that place, which is making that conscious decision around studying it, learning the tools, realizing you're a pioneer, that you're doing something that is different than how you were potentially raised, knowing that you're probably doing it different than a lot of the parents at the park or on the schoolyard. So you got to be strong in doing things differently than other people because they're not getting the same information. But you're on the right path when you've got that sweet spot between being able to hold that boundary and doing it in a kind way. I'm ready to go to school and drive whoever's ready at 8:30. But if you're not ready at 8:30, the car is leaving and you'll have to figure out another alternative on your own. Obviously, that's age dependent on kids who can, that can be left at home alone or walk to school on their own, not your little ones. But I mean, that would just be an example. I know laundry day is Thursday. Anybody that has their laundry in their hampers out in the hall, I'm happy to do that laundry. If I don't see any hampers in the hall, I'll just assume that you're interested in laundry services this week, and I'll just move on. And not to have a fit about it, not to go like, they didn't put their laundry in the hall, they've got choir tomorrow, their white shirt isn't ready, just let the chips fall where they may, and kids will realize they'll start to make different decisions when we just hold that boundary and do it respectfully, that we trust that they'll learn and figure things out.
We're speaking with Allison Schaefer, parenting expert, author, and family counselor here on Radio Noon. Give us a call if you have any questions or comments, 204-780-0893 or 204-588-7355. I want to ask you, Allison, here, social media. How much has social media played a role here in how people parent or how they approach parenting situations?
I do think there's an impact on, for all of us, parents and teenagers. Everybody is watching, trying to make sort of a composition of what the world looks like on the other side. And we know that it's manufactured. It is, for me, I put out parenting tips. There's lots of other parenting experts that put out parenting tips. But there's also parents just sort of reporting from the trenches saying, here's some parent hacks. And I think there's some value there too. So the problem is what you get is a lot of like drips and drabs. It's only got an attention span of one reel is a minute and a half long or whatever. And so it's a little bit like a bunch of confetti sprinkled everywhere. And it doesn't give you kind of like that big periodic table that gives you that confidence that you kind of know exactly what the bigger grand scheme of things is. So I do think it's helpful to kind of find the person that you're resonating with and do that research to get that framework in your mind, and then go to social media to pepper it with some of the little details and applications. But I think if you just think you're going to get all your parenting intel off of social media, I think it'll add to frustration, an inflated sense of what you should be doing. A lot of like, oh, not my best parenting moment. Why are other people doing it better? But look at how much comedy is out there. I love it for the farce. I love it so that they can make you laugh about how lunches look so great in September. And by the time you get to like after March break, you're like throwing a granola bar in a plastic bag and say, have a good day. Long gone are the bento boxes of September. All the firstborn, secondborn, middle child, like spoofy videos. I love all those. Those are, if we're laughing, it means we're onto something that is clearly resonating with people.
Allison, we got a comment from Kaylee, and Kaylee messaged us, can you comment on how Indigenous parenting styles fit within the spectrum of parenting you're describing, and maybe how other cultures might have an influence on parenting styles or how other cultures handle parenting styles?
Oh, I love that question. And I don't know enough specifically about the Indigenous groups or the particular one that she might be affiliated with. But I will tell you that I had the great privilege of interviewing an author who wrote Hunt, Gather, Parent. And she had a real tyrannical 4-year-old. She was an NPR announcer, radio person, and she took a sabbatical and she went to different areas around the world that were older cultures. And so she lived amongst the Inuit in the far north, the Incas, some places in Africa. I can't remember all the ones that she visited. And she looked at their different attributes, like the Incas are the most helpful children in the planet, and there's no anger in the far north and Inuit communities. And so she studied that, and she looked at those cultural things. And these are ancient cultures, which I think we would say are Indigenous people, if they've held on to their roots. And so they are much more collective. They are much more about that idea of like living with the that cooperation framework amongst in their social arrangements, but also with life and Mother Earth. And so I think that you're going to see a lot of those kinds of parenting traditions that I'm talking about, trying to bring back to the kind of competitive, individualistic North American culture that you will see in some of these ancient cultures. And they're beautiful, and we need to bring those to the fore. So I really recommend that book. And I'm sure there's many other cultures that I'm missing that have some really wonderful practices and outcomes.
Allison, I want to thank you so much. We're going to have to wrap it up here for our call-in segment, but it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining us here today on Radio Noon.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. Anytime.
Take care. That is Allison Schaefer, family counselor, parenting expert, and author, joining us here on Radio Noon. It is 12:56 right now, and some current conditions around the province. We've got a mainly sunny sky, -5 right now in Brandon, -18 and light snow in Churchill. Right now in Thompson, it is light snow and drifting snow, -14. And in Winnipeg, we're at -4. We're expected to get up to a high of -2. We're under a mainly sunny sky right now. Host of Up to Speed, Faith Fundal, has just popped into the studio. Hi, Faith.
Hello, Marjorie. A union representing thousands of allied healthcare professionals in Manitoba. A strike deadline looms. We're just about a day away from that. It's the second time in less than 2 years that the Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals has threatened job action. We'll hear more from the president about how those negotiations are going. And we're also going to go to Los Angeles, where Manitoba Music is building global connections and showcasing our province's talent. We'll hear about those stories coming up on the program today.
Thank you very much, Faith.
Thank you.
Tune in to Up to Speed, 3 to 6 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. Well, thank you so much for tuning in the show. And I want to thank you to our listeners and our viewers who sent in their calls and comments today. Thank you to Allison Schaefer for joining us here on the show. And a big thank you to the wonderful, hardworking crew here on Radio Noon. Our tech is May McKillop, Director Sierra Sanders, Associate Producer Carmen Ponto, and our YouTube live stream director is Travis Peterson. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Coming up next year, Quirks and Quarks. Have a good one.